Shannon, can you hear me? Oh, hang on. Let me get my everything. All right. I guess we're
Can you hear me?
going for it. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I
Can you
can't
hear me?
hear you. Hang on. Oh no, technical difficulties. Hello?
You hear?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. What's
Shannon.
up?
Nothing, friend. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me get some things situated. I'm just using my StreamYards for the first time. So wanted to welcome you. Hi.
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 Dude, your hair looks cool.
Oh, thanks, man.
Cool.
Thank you. Yeah, so I guess we are live. Like, this is my first time using StreamYards. Like every Friday, my community and I've been getting together and like making this list of 365 terms that are like, I think I was telling you kind of about our spelling bee.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
Awesome.
fun. Yeah, just kind of like another way to like relate with like words and stuff. And so, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to stop by and stuff. I just wanted to chat with you and see how you were doing and introduce you to everyone. I made you some screens and stuff. So,
Nice.
yes, yes. So,
Cool.
everyone, this is Shannon Moore, my dear friend here. It's a great friend.
Cool. It's nice to meet everybody in this virtual world
Yeah,
that we live amongst now, right?
I know. How's your digital footprint been going?
Good, man. Like I know we had a conversation previously. You know, sometimes like we don't realize like how many people we reach, and then it hits us in the face where we realize, like not only like are we doing the right thing and working hard and like bettering ourselves and doing all this stuff, but we're actually a brand ourselves. Because I feel like we shortchange ourselves. And I was able to, well, it was probably 3 to 4 years ago. I had this social media background check done, and there was billions of imprints on my name and my brand and the different brands that I was associated with. Outside of wrestling, it made me realize, like, man, you reach a lot of people as, just this human being named Shannon Moore. So just taking that and, like figuring out where we want to, like put this footprint, right? It's
Yes.
amazing where we can take it.
Yeah, Shannon, you're doing so many remarkable things. Like I said, I want to show everyone kind of a little thing here, my friend. Sorry, I should have asked you about your photos, but obviously, thank you for coming. Like our community is pretty strong. It's growing. Like I've kind of developed like an authorship program where people can kind of contribute their 365 terms because
Yeah.
it kind of like, represents kind of the current speech, at least for me. Like, I think definitely, like you're saying, reaching a lot of people is what we get the opportunity to do. But, sometimes if I'm not in the ring, I was feeling like a certain way about that, like it was just kind of like, how do I still connect? Can I still connect that of other interest and topics and subjects that maybe aren't about wrestling gear all the time? Or, if I'm not a champion, did my story still count? So I kind of just went on this digital footprint and tried to make something new. So that's kind of the point. So I'm so happy to see you and everything. And
Yeah, no, it's awesome you're doing this. Because we do, I've been attached to the wrestling industry for 30 years, and it started at 9 years old. And I was taught you eat, breathe, and sleep this certain thing, this entity, like if you're going to be successful in it, and it pigeonholed, me for so many years. It pigeonholed me into this little corner of my capabilities and potentials. I feel like because I defined myself by this one industry, and like I think we're all bigger than that. But until you're aware of that, like you're not aware. And I think it's great what you're doing. Especially educating people that like, hey, you can have this footprint too. You just have to have a vision and understand what you want, like in this footprint. So like, I think it's amazing what you're doing. Like I love it. I think it's awesome.
Thanks, Shannon. I mean, you're doing, like I said, remarkable things too. And it's like, like how you were saying, like, how is it that we like, I guess it's all in that self-care. Like, I think that's really part of like what this transition of, you know, getting off the road and if, to be completely like in general space, not employed by the machine or a machine, it's like that was like a like you're saying, the awareness, like that wouldn't have come if I were full time on the road. I think that's kind of what I'm able to accept today. But I think it's an opportunity for us all to realize that I think transition is what it looks like. It to me, it's messy. That's what I kind of say, but it's the mess I can clean up today, I think, and I just relate to you on so many ways. Like we've been friends for a while, and it's interesting, like what we both have as commonalities outside of the ring, and I think that's what so cool to see you and introduce you to this community, like be able to be here with you.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is. It's once you do break that mentality of we can only do one thing, we can only focus on one thing. And when other people or companies tell us that too, like, hey, you have to focus just on this or else, and that's the way a lot of but that's how society's driven these days, right? Like we're taught at an early age, you go to school, you go to college, you use your degree, you get a job, you sit at a desk, you work, your 12 hours a day or your 10 hours a day, you go home and you repeat and you get your paycheck and you live within the means of that paycheck. But obviously people go into debt and then, like we retire at 60 and it's like, that's just been this way of life. I feel like and I feel like that's starting to change now. Social media has added so much awareness and so much reach for people to be able to actually go out and do these other things to create a life of happiness, not just of obedience whenever it comes to like this is what life is. And that's something that like I didn't know nothing about that. Like I didn't go to college. I was wrestling super early, so I defined myself by wrestling for so many years because like it was all I knew, and I wasn't educated or I didn't have nobody going like, hey dude, like it's okay for you to step out of these realms of what you've already been quote successful at, or however you want to look at that, and try new things and find new passions, and you can make income from different things. If you put the work in as hard as you did for wrestling. And I think that's and the first time that I think I experienced that, and I think it comes down to the self-care part of it, like believing in yourself, like was whenever I got released. One time, the first time I got released by WWE, like I was like, man, what now? Like it scared me. And I went from there. I went to TNA because like I jumped right into wrestling again. But I told myself in that moment, I'll never pigeonhole myself into one way of income, and that I was just going to go for it and I was going to try new things. And that's whenever I opened my first tattoo shop. And I just had this vision, and I just stopped by this. I'll never forget it. I just stopped by this empty building one day, and it said for lease. And I was like, okay, I'm going to call these people and go meet with them. And I went and met with them, and I signed this lease on this building. I knew nothing about the tattoo industry other than getting tattooed. I had no artists lined up to tattoo. Like I
Yeah, tell us
had
about it.
I think I had like, you know, $60,000 saved at that point, and I was like, well, I'm either gonna lose all this money and go for it, or and it was incredible because like the first month I pretty much paid back, you know, to my savings account everything that I invested into this shop. And like it took off, man. And like I was making more money than I'd ever made before off this vision and just jumping into this thing that like I just tried. And it worked because I put just as much passion and drive into it. And, you know, like the universe provided like these artists that, you know, magically the timing of these artists like coming to me, you know, for a job. And it was incredible just the way it worked out. And you know, I've been in several situations like that where I just was like, you know, I'm just gonna go for it. Like you know, I don't want to be, you know, like controlled. Like whenever it comes to my own artistry, right? Like I want to be able to I want to be able to give all of me, and I want to be able to be me. Like I don't have to, you know, like work amongst somebody else's narrative of what, you know, me as an employee has to do or has to be or has to dress like. It's like I just want to be me and have that freedom. And I think that's what drove me to, you know, to I guess finally starting to be aware of what that looked like. And now it's like I get excited because like I do have a lot going on. Um, these days, but like there's so much more that I want to do, and I still have that little bit of fear too, like, you know, talking about, you know, our footprint is like going into that next step of, you know, whatever a vision is, or just gonna go for it, because
Mhm.
there's that fear of failure too, you know, like
Oh,
but
yeah.
we, you know, like as hard as we work, I feel like you can't fail because like, you know, what we did in wrestling, what we did outside of wrestling, and all this stuff. It's like, man, if we put as much effort as we put in everything else, it's like it's impossible to fail. I feel like.
It's impossible, and, like, I love how you were talking about, like, your tattoo shop because I've got some sleeves that I'm building, and things, and the idea of, like, so in one day we were like, we're wrestlers, and one day we're, like, entrepreneurs, and then another day we're Shannon, and we're Victoria, and we're all these things, and it's like, what's left is, like, still what you still have that energy to build, like, and give, like you're saying, like, and I think that's, like, so relate to, like, kind of just in a subtle sense, that seeming to be like that safe boundary that we can keep for our protection, keep for others, keep for like that time of healing. Cause like I think for me, looking at, well, what am I made out of? What are my skills? What do I do now? Like I completely had a state of fear, and like mourning and things. But it's kind of interesting because if we walk outside with the luggage, like we're now wrestler, we're now like, so it's like kind of this. That's why I love and I'm so appreciative of you coming on here because you are like you're growing and moving. You're like upwarding. I can't. There's something I read. I can probably send it to you, but it's like in a book where it talks about there's a real term for like growth and evolution that isn't linear. It's actually like more vertical. And it's like, a sidewalk is like laid together to cover a lot of like land distance. But if we're growing up, you know what I'm saying? Like there are maybe sidewalks and floors as we elevate, but I think it's why getting down to the nitty gritty with like hours like this with you, my friend, to like chop it down to go up together, because like at least that's what I think in touching your community, like all your fan base. I see, I saw your Instagram and everything, like the thing is like there's people that are moving up behind you and moving up with you. And that's why I always say, hey guys, get to know the folks you follow. So I think it was just time to like open up this footprint and try to figure out how to talk to my friends on here about what we talk about offline, like
What's
us.
the real conversations, right? Like, you know, about us evolving, and I don't think there's enough of that, especially in the wrestling industry. There's not a lot of pulling up. It's always either pushing down or just protecting your own. And you know, I feel like I had a few people that were willing to, you know, pull me up, but there was never a lot of conversations like this. There was never a lot of conversations about, things outside of wrestling. How just a simple like, hey man, like, what's your mental health like? Are you doing okay? Like being on the road, like from somebody, whenever I first hit the road, after being on the road for 6 months at 18 years old in WCW,
Yeah.
I never had that conversation of somebody that had been on the road for 10 years come to me and go like, hey man, this is a taxing industry. I know you're young, but like maybe, make sure you keep your mental health in check, or just those conversations, those real conversations that are important, I feel like, especially as whenever we're younger, man, like because we're growing and like we're taking in everything. It's like a kid, like a kid that's 1 years old, like my grandson now, like watching him evolve and like he's picking up on all these little cues. But like I don't feel like that stops, especially in our teenage years. And whenever we're in an industry like that, it's like we're absorbing everything. And I feel like, like some of those things that probably could have helped me in other areas, or been educated on in other areas, whether it's finances, mental health, um, these things that are just never talked about. That's one thing that I love talking about now with, like you said, my friends, or if it's other wrestlers or business people that I meet, like outside of wrestling, or, like I now work in the recovery industry too. So like, I'm meeting a lot of different people and doctors and professionals that have those conversations. And I'm like, man, like if we could have had these conversations whenever I was, actively on the road for 290, 300 days a year, it would have helped me so much. So like now just bringing awareness to people, and especially, our following, like I don't like to call them fans because like I feel like it's just a bad term. Like to me, like I don't like, people have supported me. It's like all these people that keep tabs on me for all these years. It's like, they're not beneath me. And I feel like whenever I call them my fans, it's like I put them beneath me. So like, I tell people they're supporters, man, because they've supported me. I've got people that supported me for the last 30 years that still follow me and keep tabs on what I'm doing or involved in what I'm doing today. And these are the conversations that I love having, or I love having with those people that have supported me for so long. And it's platforms like this, I believe that we can actually do that. So once again, I
Thanks,
think it's awesome you're doing this.
thanks, Shannon. It's funny because like one thing that I wanted to ask you about is, like when you were saying that you started the business so young, and I know you had like your friend, like the Hardys, everybody, but like you as like a young child going in this direction, like with literally just out of natural like tools that we have out of like high school and stuff, like wrestling still looked different because like for myself, like it looked different when I got to developmental, like at 17. But I kind of have come to the realization and able to share publicly that sometimes like leaving my home life made wrestling look very inviting. So it's like without putting much light on things that, I haven't really shared much about my childhood and things like that, kind of brings perspective for me to see like, it's a rigid, brutal business, but like that child of me still had a lot of growing to do, regardless of what profession I walked into. But like with you, I just wonder, like yourself, it's so much like young child experience. Like, you think it kind of helped you that sense of adventure and exploration to like, because you were so young, like maybe knowing what you know about the business now, would you have thought the same if you were 30 and going into it your first day? Like, I think that would be hard for me to like decide. I think it'd have
Right.
been
Right.
easier earlier.
Yeah,
But
I definitely, I think that, it's a good question. I think it's a double-edged sword for me, right? You know, my childhood was normal. What I thought it was normal, right?
Mhm.
Later on, like obviously, like whenever I started working with therapists, and I realized that my childhood probably wasn't so normal, and there was some traumatic events that took place. One of them, my father, he was in a car accident with, left him in a coma for a year. My mom was away taking care of him. And during that time, I believe that's whenever I think wrestling kind of saved me. Because, I was pretty much raising myself at that point because my mom was away taking care of my dad until she could bring him home after he came out of the coma, but he was paraplegic once he did, like come out of the coma. So, I lost my dad. I was 8 years old, 9 years old. And that's about the time that wrestling, like I started actually like with Matt and Jeff, like we were over there every day, like, on the trampoline ring or, this crazy wrestling ring that we had built out of garden hoses and stuff. But like it did rescue me, I feel like, because it gave me family. My brother wasn't around, he had already moved out. So like I was in this home pretty much by myself, and the neighbors would check in on me, and like I would stay with whoever, whatever neighbor. Um, so wrestling saved me at that point. But like you said, I feel like, once I did hit the road at 13, 14 years old, and I'm around these men, these other wrestlers, and like this business and this industry. I mean, it's no secret that especially back then in the late 90s, or mid 90s, like, wrestling was, it was like rock and roll, man. It was sex, drugs, rock and roll. So 14 years old, at a strip club wrestling, or like couldn't even get into the strip club, so I'd have to run in, wrestle, then I'd go back out to the car, or like I seen all these things, right? Like all these that a child probably shouldn't take part in. um so yeah, I think that's a double-edged sword, because in a way, like wrestling saved my life, but in a way, like it made me grow up really, really quick. And I was also around things that wasn't explained, like, hey, you probably shouldn't do this. This is bad. It was just accepted in that community, and me, I already identified as part of that community. I was going to be a pro wrestler, and that's all I wanted to be. So yeah, like my childhood, it was tough, and diving into wrestling, it looked like this world of acceptance and this world of love, because everybody took care of me, because I was the young kid, and I had all these men that would they would kill for me, right? So that's a hard one. It's a hard one to to look back and go like, would have would I have did anything different, or do I wish that I wouldn't have went into wrestling so early? Like, I really can't say that, just because, like, I, I think whenever it comes to my life and I look back at the stuff that went wrong, like, if I would have been in a better place, um, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad. So I try to own my side of it, right? Like,
Totally.
okay, like how much of this was me? How much of it was, the industry or whatever went wrong? Like, what was my part in it? So like it's just such a hard question whenever we think about the past, because like no matter what, like we're here in the present, and it's like it's just a memory, right? So like can't beat ourselves up too bad. But it's a good question, man. But I don't think I would do anything different, because I don't think I would sit here the man that I am now, like if I was to be able to go back and change that. I think that everything has happened for a reason, and I feel like the best is yet to come for me. And like it's weird, because I can feel like this growth, and like I have people that'll contact me with all this new stuff, like they want me to be part of. And it's like you weed through it, because time's valuable and I don't have a lot of time. But it's like I think all of us, now that we've evolved and we understand that wrestling is just a business that we can take part in if we want to, and if not, we don't have to. And
Abs-
that we're in full control of our destiny at this point, and like we are the brand now. It's not about working for a brand.
Totally. Yeah. Like, I'm curious, like, yeah, when you mentioning in time and stuff, like, it's interesting because it's like, is it an asset? Is it a non-tangible? Like, we can go talking about it in all different ways, right? But, like when we're talking about being a brand and our name, and, that today, it might just be the blessing of timing that, like, without like kind of like certain contracts or stuff, like I can trademark my own name, and then I can figure out what that looks like in the real world, but so can everyone else. So when I look at like YouTube, and like what inspired me to do conversations is the fact that these YouTube folks are trademarking and marketing themselves, getting sponsors, able to like have a message, protect where it goes, how to distribute, all those things. Like,
Yeah.
if you just, so I guess what I'm saying is part of like our story, like you're right, like, you know, keeping my side of the street clean and take what's my part, all these things. Like for me, there's a lot of things that I realized I wasn't taking responsibility for, especially if I think about, you know, my persona, you know, in some degrees, you know, social media was still evolving. So I almost couldn't keep up with my personal situation and then my professional situation in this same arena online, you know? And so I felt like this, like maybe tug of war with myself. But I guess it's kind of nice that we get to kind of weave it back together. I mean, like, how do we like champion what we did and then champion where we're going? Like, hey, y'all, look at this, you know? Because
Yeah.
I think there's like that weird part, you know, when you're being really honest, where you almost like don't want to share too much about where the sausage is made or frighten people, because some people are kind of like developing at different rates, right? But when you see people in anguish that you've experienced, you're just kind of like, dog, like, man, come on, man. So it's like, what's the time for patience? Like, that's kind of like self-care, I guess. I mean, I know I'm all over the place with that question, but I mean, Shannon, you always blow my mind, you know, so insightful, such a wise brother. I just,
Um, and I think with experiences, like that's where we get our growth from. You know, like you said, with the people that, you know, because I see people now. I got friends that are on the road full time right now. I got friends that, you know, are on the indie scene. I got friends that have businesses that hate wrestling, that don't know nothing about wrestling. You know, my wife, she's one of those people that knows absolutely nothing about wrestling, doesn't understand it, doesn't like, she just thinks that I worked at a hot dog factory or something, I believe. Like, just it's funny, like, whenever you meet people like that. But I do think that those conversations, when we see those people, you know, like earlier, whenever I was mentioning, you know, there was never really anybody there to pull me up. Like, whenever, you know, I was that person that was holding my head, you know, going, oh man, like, what's going on with everything just spinning out of control, you know, not knowing where my career was going, the fear of losing my job, all that stuff. But I think it's important now for, you know, us that are outside of that, that have experienced that, that's overcome that, that understands, you know, like, to educate them. And it's like, you know, I get some of these friends that'll call me and they're like, man, I'm, you know, like, I'm not doing nothing on TV. Like, I think I'm gonna get fired. Or I get some people like, you know, I'm unhappy, I'm miserable, you know, being in this company. Like, you know, what do I do? You know, they're not, I feel like I need more. And the answer is simple, man. Like, if you're a 1099 contractor, you have the right to be able to walk away too. So it's like, you get trapped in this fear of not being able to provide for yourself or your family. And like, you know, I had somebody call me the other day and they're like, man, like, you know, like, they're doing nothing with me, you know, on TV, in one of the major companies. And, you know, my advice is like, well, I mean, you signed a contract, and like, in that agreement, you agreed to provide your services for X amount of dollars, but that goes both ways. If they're not happy with your services, they're going to fire you, and vice versa. If you're not happy with the way that they're using you, then you can leave too. Like, it goes both ways, right? But I think on the one side of it, we get trapped in fear, and we don't want to take that chance of walking away. But I think, like, in a professional manner, it's okay to walk away and go like, hey, this just isn't working for me at this point. Like, I know we had this agreement. However, you know, it's got to work for both of us. But for me, like, I'm gonna walk away and I'm gonna pursue something else, for the moment, and maybe we can do business down the road. I never, like, for some reason, I never understood that, because I would find myself in situations where, you know, like, I just didn't want to be on the road no more. But the fear of, like, just not getting that check every Monday was like, man, I'm just gonna stay and do, you know, what I can, even though, like, it's making me unhappy, my life unhappy. So I think, like, understanding that it's a two-way street whenever it comes to these contracts, and that's not just the wrestling industry, that's any business. And like now I try to look at it like that. If I get to the point where I'm just unhappy and I feel like I got potential for more, or I need to move on, that's what I'm gonna do. Like I'm not gonna pigeonhole myself like ever again, and to be complacent, and just like go through the motions and try to be happy. It's like, man, I want to live a happy life. Like I want to live it, as good as possible, not based around the dollar amount, right? Because that
Hopefully.
that controls us in so many ways,
I
if
mean,
we let it.
I
And
get scared if my paper's low, and it's
yeah,
like funny because like I don't know if I get scared just in here. I get scared in my feet. I'm running around like a chicken, like. But it's interesting because I remember kind of like when in some for the most part, like toward the end of my full time on the road, it was the travel. It was like being in an airport, being in an airplane, being I remember once I think we were flying from Atlanta and it was pretty early and I just like had the thought like I have to get off this plane like right now. Like I just was like done with the plane. I was done with it. But when I got home out of like just circumstance, um and there was no flight, there was no plane for me to catch. I had a whole different internal experience. Like I started feeling like those feelings that I would like block just so I could get by, what is it? Do good to get good, or just do what you need to do to get by, like even if I didn't want to travel, I can go do work, whatever. I I get there, I'm always smiling, like I had a great time. But when it comes to like my economic security, like there were things that I just couldn't like keep going anymore. So the circumstance came and, I had other issues, but being home, I remember having this internal experience where it's like, man, I am so boring. I am not an exciting person. Like I just kind of gave myself like this, like, I don't know what I were doing, but it was a season that was like not, I guess, had to happen because I had to, like, as you're saying, like, have that time to reflect on what's my value, what's my time worth, like,
yeah,
from now and forever. I don't want to spend time dwelling on bad memories or whatever, but I've done it before and I did waste a lot of time. And so it's like, I can't thank you enough for coming on here, like, and just being yourself and being my friend, because like things like this are what I weren't able to do, like if in a circumstance. And like you said, like I remember I worked at this like quick retail store that I really love it, but it just, I had to use my time somewhere else. But and these girls were like 21 and they go, you know what? You're not a tree, move. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, you're right. That's with any job, anything,
yeah.
anything. Jeez.
Yeah. No, I did, and that's what like that's the fun part of this. Of like I figured out. I know for me, like the fun part now is like I can do anything I want to, and like I don't have to be controlled by somebody. Like I don't have to be told like how or what my goals are going to be or what my passions or purpose is. It's like 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 we're talking about branding, right? Like I'm my own brand, and outside of that, like I'm Shannon. Like you can't tell me how to be me. Like it's not going to be good for me mentally and all that. So I think just that's just the corporate world period too. I think like it's that goes beyond the wrestling industry. um it's in all of corporate America. You look at people that work in the stock industry or on the stock market. It's in New York City, or no matter what it is, whether like you said, whether we're in a boutique store, we're on the road 300 days a year. It's like we have the power to control the narrative for us.
Yeah,
Are
like
we willing? Yeah, are we willing to do it? And it's like, we both have work ethic. I know you do, and I have a work ethic that I'll try to outwork anybody in the room. And if I have something that I want to do and I want to accomplish, I'm going to put the work in, like no matter what it takes, because I'm healthy enough to do it. Like mentally, I'm focused. So it's like there's no reason for us not to succeed. Like for ourselves and our own brand.
Yeah. Do you want to share anything about like your the platform that you've been working with, and or like your family and how that's growing and everything?
Yeah, dude, from a family standpoint, like, I got married about six months ago, 7 months ago. Like super cool lady. Like she supports me like in anything I want to do. But I never had kids. Like so she had two kids that she, brought into my life. I never wanted kids just because I was on the road traveling so much and just felt like it would be cheating the kids because I'd be gone all the time. But yeah, so I have a daughter and son now that she brought into my life, which is amazing. Like, they're just really good kids. My daughter, like, she's 22 years old and just had our first grandchild, which is amazing because I'm getting to see this little dude evolve. And you talk about like just the purest form of a human being. Like there was a lot of reflecting too whenever he was born, right? Just like holding this kid, it was like, man, he's so pure, like the world, nobody's like, um, you know, nothing's touched this little boy, like of the purest form. Like he has no clue, like what this world is all about or nothing. And I was just sitting there and like I had this reflection of, like my life and everything that I'd been through and, the challenges, the good things, the bad things, and all this stuff. Like, 44 years of just craziness and I'm just looking at this kid going, man, like he hasn't experienced none of this. And I hope to God, like, the bad stuff that I've been through, like he never has to do it. So just kind of put a new perception on, just kind of life for me. Now just focusing on, them too. Like it's, I think about him too. His name's Enzo. So it's like, man, I want to make sure Enzo like is set and he has these people around him to pull him up and teach him these educational values or these things that's just going to help him not go down the right path because like nobody's perfect, nobody's just going to be this perfect being that doesn't screw up from time to time. But I think just the awareness of like you can do whatever you want to do and supporting him as he goes on this journey so he doesn't have to pigeonhole himself, right? So like I've already thinking about him and I so anyways from a family standpoint like that's something like I've been thinking about over here. But then from my standpoint like I'm working at I'm a client relations manager at a treatment center called Riverside Recovery in Tampa. And talking about people that pull you up, like we got a staff here that like just have the same vision and passion and like we have a good time. And it's like the locker room, like we'd have those group of people that really kept us like up and going. Our friends or close friends that we had on the road. And I found that here, so like we got a really it's family. And our mission is to help people. So like what a better mission than to go through the day trying to help somebody tap into potential they never tapped into before, right?
Yeah.
Or get over a substance issue or anything like that. And this recovery industry that I've been working in, like there's been all these connections because I never in a million years thought I would end up in any kind of industry like this. Obviously like everybody knows I went through treatment myself, and out of that like I found this passion and this desire to like pull people up, right? And it's like, man, like, there's a lot of brilliant people that were in, whenever I went through the treatment process that were in treatment with me. And I'm like, dude, there's something to this because like you meet some of the smartest people in this industry that, like I've ever met before. And now so like I'm working on all these little avenues like in the recovery industry now. We got a show, a TV show that we've been filming for about a year now called Night of Recovery. um, we're taking it around the country live and we're filming these shows. There's one episode up on Prime now, Amazon Prime, and we're slowly like rolling this thing out. We're getting ready to hit Tampa with a big tour, with a bunch of amazing guests, like some people from, the wrestling industry that's going to be part of it. We're looking outside, like, we would love to bring people into it. Obviously like Jelly Roll, right? Like you have this.
Yeah.
He just spoke in front of Congress about, like fentanyl and
Yeah, and he made a
overdoses.
phenomenal speech,
Yeah,
right?
just amazing. So
Phenomenal.
like, the entertainment world now, I feel like there's this shift in the entertainment world where, like people are finally like trying to help others. It's not just all about them, because like I feel like the entertainment world went through this, I don't know, this era of where it was like, how much can you get and how much can you take from the world? And like, oh, I've got a gazillion dollars and I have 13 homes and yachts and this and that and the other. Look at me. But it's cool to see, entertainers like Jelly Roll, or, like people actually out there, like they could care less about the money and they're trying to save lives and trying to make a difference in the world. So like that's our mission with this whole TV show thing, is to, like do that, is go out there, let people know, like no matter if it's mental illness, substance, abuse, um, like I don't care like what it is, like there's help out there to get people on the other side and to have hope, like that they can overcome whatever it is that they're struggling with. And that's anything, because I don't think there's enough of that. So yeah, we're gonna bring that tour through Tampa, hopefully, a few stops in Florida, and film it for, hopefully a future Netflix show that we're going to edit it down and hopefully put it on Netflix. But right now it's going to be on Prime and a few other platforms. So got that going on. I think March I'm meeting about hopefully opening my next tattoo shop here in Tampa, which I'm hoping to have that open by the end of the summer. If that's the case, then yeah, just a lot of exciting stuff, man. Like life's good. I can't, I'm open to anything that comes at me. It's like I'm so busy now, like we're talking about time's valuable. And like I just, I'm up at 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m. and I'm, I go to bed, 9:45, 10 o'clock. But
Yeah.
it's like for that whole time, it's like everybody's like, man, what video games do you play or what TV shows do you watch? And it's like, I don't. Like, when do you have time to do that? Because like I stay so busy, like, building that brand, right? Or whatever, or that footprint or that legacy. It's like I finally realized like what that is. And now like I just don't want to waste no time. I just want to be after it every minute.
I love it. And it's like, you keep saying like the word legacy, or, usually on our community, we call the words terms when we kind of
Yeah.
talk about them. So I have to just have like Shannon Moore legacy. Like
Yeah.
that has to be on the list for everyone. And, you're so right. And it's so awesome, like hearing how, like, I love like listening to how you're sharing about the platform that you're reaching, like the speeches and the tours about like the recovery, and like building like a place where people who maybe have had that public ex- experience, that it is a whole new time for us to be vulnerable in our skeletons with each other, but I think it's like, for myself, like I were really nervous being in public, trying to share who I am, trying to be Victoria. And it was someone in my recovery program myself that helped me develop Vic's Crow, in a sense of like, why don't you just be Vic's? You don't have to be anything. And she's not a wrestler. She's actually in her late age. So it's like the opportunity to be present and recognize friendship or building, and like to really like follow those people that are lifting you up. And it's still painful getting uprooted. Like I don't want to, sit here and tell stories and say that I haven't had a smooth transition. I have been able to share with you, like, like questions like, hey brother, like what in the world, and stuff. But I think it's like really nice that you're able to bring like a public platform so we can bring these like skeleton pieces like to the forefront. Cause like I think like by me starting like to go on a live and being like entertaining, like I didn't see that for myself in this space for me. Like I felt like that would be me trying to make things look like they're okay. And I feel like my truth and my real story right now lies in like these live kind of platforms, because this is how it is at whatever at 11:55 on
Yeah.
Friday. Like this is who I am at 11:55, and that's what I always like, y'all catch me on my Twitch, catch me over here, like because I just can't catch up to my own stories but y'all can hear if I'm, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm just, that's
Yep.
why it's like we're authors like of our days. Like, you know, like I just kind of want to keep putting light on that because, you know, it's kind of like a social responsibility to know those things too. Like, you know, I don't know. You
Yeah.
know, the power of influence is important and everyone's getting some, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's the power of authenticity, right? Like if you think about it, and I hate to take it back to, wrestling, but like if you're in a wrestling ring and whenever we're portraying this character in the ring, you got millions of people watching you. And, whenever it comes to people like tuning in, that's flipping the channel, in order for them to stay on the channel and watch somebody perform in the ring, like they have to believe that that character is that character, right? And I feel like whenever it comes to our individual platforms and whenever we're trying to, like build us and work on us, like that authenticity has to be there. And it's like, unfortunately, like we're not perfect creatures, but people that are going to tune in, they're going to tune into somebody that goes like, hey, I fucked up before. Like, hey, like I struggle, I have a mental illness, or I've struggled with mental illness, or, like, hey, I've did this bad thing before. Because like there's nobody out there. And you see people paint these pictures on social media and Instagram, especially, like where, like, look at me, I'm on this fabulous vacation with my husband or wife that we never argue, or we never, like we never have these bad moments. Like my life's so beautiful and grand, and it's just perfect. And it's like, come on, dude, cut the shit. It's
yeah,
like,
and you
yeah,
know what I was thinking too? Like, you know, because I still talk offline with our friends, you know, especially in the women. Like the women, like I have a small group of girls that I talk to. And it's funny because like, you know, you get a couple of advice when it comes to coming into business, like don't date the boys. You know, you might be lucky if you have a couple handful of friends. And and just like as I lived through some of those experiences, like I had to like live them to be true, like, you know, but the group of girls that I still connect with are the same group of girls that I clicked with in the beginning. But like the experience they had in our industry is still different than mine,
yeah,
you know? And it's like by like you, like I said, like you allowing us to share like more to our story, like we're wrestlers, but we have this, like, but in a public platform that has a purpose, you know, like I just am, I'm just like in awe, you know, but the thing I experienced in talking to my friends like that are outside or far removed from our industry is that how many times we had to talk about the wrestling story to separate to heal it, like it
yeah,
just in real life, like that is something that I think when I want to go on my life, I've run into stumble blocks or like barriers before where I got emotional or I was like upset, I was like aggravated, you know, but to in my mind, I'm thinking, oh no, don't play the crazy girl. Cause you know, that was a weird thing. That was not, that was a,
mhm,
you know what I'm saying? So there's like this layer that is like, oh no, danger, danger. But I'm still reacting to that internal stuff. But what I'm trying to say is I had to practice and learn through that being like, all right, you know, whatever. I'm messed up. I can be emotional if I want to. It's my
yeah,
stream, you know, it's my
yeah,
stream, it's my this, my that, you
yeah,
know, but it's my honest truth experience. So I don't care. There's no comparison. I'm my only story character, right? But my point is like, you know, when I'm talking to my girlfriends or like the women have a small community in our industry. I think that's why I'm really like like trying to set the tone on this like realm here. Like how many times we talk about wrestling, how many times wrestling comes up and when we're just sharing, like it takes a long time to talk through that. Like it seems like the topic always comes up, like, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes I'm in that headspace. And then if I'm doing my social media, I don't mean to trickle it over, but maybe sometimes talking to the people about the wrestling takes what it takes instead of taking it back. Like sometimes I can find myself like not wanting to talk about my wrestling story because I don't want to offend anyone or I don't want to say anything or whatever. But I don't know. I'm like all over, but it's just like, you know, my point is like, man, I'm surprised that I used to not talk publicly about my opinion of this sport to now can't wait to share about it with others because it is healing to conversate about things that are difficult, to conversate about the vulnerabilities, to conversate about all things, like, and I think it just gives us the opportunity to divide it, to just slow it down or something. I don't know. I guess I'm just moved by the live movement.
Yeah.
Like it
No,
gives.
it's cool. It's cool that you can look at, it's your experience, man. Like, nobody can be mad at you for sharing your experience with something, no matter what it is, right? If it's on a live, if it's on a live stream, then hey, like that's just where you're sharing this experience. I know for me, like you get what you get, and pro wrestling for me now, like it was a passion. Started as a passion. I never realized the business side of it. I never looked at it as a business until like I was pretty much done with a full-time gig in wrestling, right? But now, like, wrestling's a business. It's just a business for me. That's it. It's like I've got a lot of friends in the wrestling industry. I've had a great career. Like I look back, like I've had a 30-year career, and I'm still working in the industry and doing stuff in the industry. So like that's still going. But now, like I have, like I understand that, I love wrestling. I love the artistry behind pro wrestling. you know, I still every once in a while, like I'll keep up with what's going on social media. I don't have time to watch the shows, but I'll check in, see what's going on WWE. Oh, that's cool, or AEW, or Impact, or TNA, or whatever's going on, because like I am a fan of the industry. I love the industry, but when it comes to me providing a service and a time with the industry, that's just business for me. And whenever it comes to negotiations, whenever it comes to me giving my time to it, it's like, it has to be financially beneficial, and it has to make sense for me to step away from what I'm doing as my brand, as Shannon Moore, on a daily basis, whether that's my family, my friends, my recovery, you know, um, my work in the recovery industry. So like there's so many layers to my life now, and just everything has to make sense. And like the only way that I can handle that, I feel like, and truly walk this path with all the stuff I got going on, is to be completely transparent and stand in my truth whenever I'm making these decisions, right? Like whether or not
Yeah.
I should do a show, or sign with somebody, or go on the road, or negotiate something, or when it comes to financials, it's like I just have to stand in my truth, because if not, I'm going to end up in a, like just a bad mental state, to where I'm going to have regrets. I'm going to, like just, you know, have issues with people. And I just don't want that, man. Like I want to live just, in peace. I don't want to have issues or drama in my life. And, if it brings drama to my life, I don't want to be part of it. So, it's cool to finally be at that point, and be able to look at the industry as a business and make the best decision, and then just be friends with the people that I like in the industry, right?
Totally.
That's another thing, is like, you don't have I don't have to be on the road full time to be friends with these people. And I think for me, whenever I first got in the industry, I thought that I had to be liked, and I had to like everybody in the locker room. And it's like, and that's not the case. It's okay if you don't like people in the locker room. Like you don't have to be mean to people, and it's okay for people not to like me. Like, but there's gonna be those 4 or 5 people that, we become really good friends with, whether it's, in the past, or in something that we do in the future with a company. And like everybody's not gonna like everybody, but as long as it doesn't affect me personally, like I'm okay with it. Like that's cool. Don't like me, like that's
Yeah,
fine.
totally. It's
Yeah,
like, it's great. Go you. Like,
yeah,
that's what's so funny. It's like, to be honest with you, that's what I was trying to get to actually is, all right, in our industry, we're performers and we, do our thing in the ring. But um I think what I don't know, for myself, like Total Divas, like it's a reality scripted fun drama thing, but like does conflict solution sell tickets? Like, would people come to see us like hug and be great friends and all these other things? Like, is I'm trying to think like, you know, like my character had a lot of drama script narrative, but very rarely I think the industry allows us to have sing along script narratives, you know, but
Right.
the regardless if it's like, you know, you come out of the ring, you come out of your character, you get dressed, you get your normal clothes and you get on the road kind of like there is a sense of decompression where you separate the industry and stuff. But one thing that's like interesting and talking to like people in our zone, which I think what we are able to like when I'm saying like able to bring our skeletons forward with like your platforms and stuff is like in wrestling, you know, I can remember early parts of my career where we'd leave the arena and if we get stopped in the gas station, we kind of still stay in our character. Like it's like our it kind of blurs, it kind of plays around, you know, and it's like I think for myself in that expression, like you know, I played a crazy character. It was kind of easy to be crazy. I mean, I'm loud, you know what I'm saying? But like,
Yeah.
it was that part that I, for myself, had my story set to a temperature that made me still act out on my life, you know? Like, I think today, like, saying, like, hey, there's certain industry boundaries, there's professional boundaries, there's this boundaries, and there's those boundaries. But I think I didn't know what I didn't know, you know, like I was always wanting to be available, always wanting to be like Alicia Fox, always wanting to be available. More importantly, that the self-care that I look and reflect on these memories about instead of giving myself like a little like bad girl kind of beating, you know, I can kind of look and just say like I was just trying to play, I was trying to do my job, you know, but it kind of got still lived with me, you know? So
Yeah.
like I think that's kind of like, you know, today that we have social media, we can use that energy to like really reinstate like, hey, this is who I am. That's my, you know, like we just get that opportunity for like some boundaries with our personas, you know, out in the world so we can heal too publicly, you
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely, man. Like that's what it's about. I think being genuine, being you, like that's to me, like people's gonna tune in more for that than anything. Like, you know, the characters are cool, but you know, like it whenever people can relate to you to who you really are, like I think you get those supporters for the rest of your life. You know, it's not just based on whether you're a good guy or a bad guy or you're feuding with this person or that person. Whenever you can connect with your fan base and they support you because you're being, you know, like you're letting them in, you're letting them in on who you truly are. I think that's more appealing than any character you can play. And when it comes to, you know, like creating these people that support you and that are going to tune in live every week, like whenever you can get to that point, I think they're gonna follow you more so for that than anything, and they're not gonna walk away whenever you turn into a bad girl on TV, right? Like you lose people like that. So like I think, you know, it might not be as big of a fan base at the start, but the more you build it, I feel like it's going to be more of a loyal fan base that can tune in and, you know, like get hope, get all this stuff from your show or whatever it is that you're doing, you know, like every week or every day, whenever you're connecting with them, they know that they're going to get the true you, not this character.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I think that was like the experience I had to realize myself because it was like I could sit and just feel like I'm not like I had this other idea. Like during the pandemic, I didn't do social media for like that whole time. And it's funny because like once I put it down, I did forget about it. I just like didn't
Yeah.
didn't even think about it. Like and I don't know. I just didn't think about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, with that being said, I'm grateful that I had that pause because, like, who knows? Like, if I were being irresponsible or I wanted to get on there and I don't even know, it's just not my style. I mean, I'm not trying to be in drama either, you know. I think that's what I was trying to relate is like my caricature seemed like she was crazy, so she's very drama filled. And like sometimes when my natural expressions would mirror this persona that I was like, wait, no, not like that, trying to tweak. It was like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I was like, you know, I found myself like, I'm not even gonna try. Like, I could talk
Yeah,
myself out of having lunch if I wanted, and I'm
yeah,
starving, right?
yeah.
Like,
Well, it's like, like I think about that too, and it's like, I don't drink or, like do any kind of substance anymore. So it's like you go out sometimes and, like I still like to go out. Like I'll go out to a strip club or, with my friends and stuff. And people are like, dude, how do you go to a strip club without, like drinking or like getting messed up? And I'm like, it's the same. I'm crazy no matter what. So like, like I can have fun just being me. But like people get lost in that, man. They get lost in like, what is crazy for me. And it's like, just be us. Like if we could just be you, like you don't have to have anything to drive that. It's like, you know, but some people, they ask me that a lot. Like, dude, how do you do this? Like being sober, or if it's somebody that I'm helping get sober, like, man, how am I going to have fun, in recovery? And it's like you can still do like and have fun and be you. You're not gonna your personality doesn't die. It's just, like
I
now
thought
you don't
that
have to
though.
suffer
I was
consequences. Everything you do now, like you just don't have an excuse of why you did it. But so
right.
when you get too crazy, like, you know, now hopefully you'll be able to pull back when you so but
Right.
yeah, man.
That's so funny because I literally thought the same thing when I was starting in recovery. I was like, I'm not going to be fun. I'm not going to have fun, all these
Yeah,
things. And like, you're right. Like and this is like, a, a different part of the conversation, but the people that are in our communities or in communities of others and everything else, like there's so many folks and they party, do their things, like they're like I've got friends that are in their late age, like I mean my friend Patricia is like, I'm not going to say exactly how old she is, but I think she's like over 82, and she's a newlywed. I always have to talk about her
yeah,
because the astounding life that we can have. And I think that's like what is kind of funny, like when it comes to just like entertainment in general. Like, yeah, we've talked about like wrestling being like a business, and it is. And we're lucky to still do it. And we're lucky that we have a skill to still give. I think that's
yeah,
kind of like what gives me hope in this environment. But I mean, I still am a working person. So moving on, it's like, you know, I think entertainment, it's kind of a funny thing. Like once you've participated in it, like it's just an interesting, unique thing. But I mean, I just wonder, like for people in their late age, like do they get upset that there's not like a late age euphoria? Like, are we as a society doing us people a disservice, like not at least adding to the later chapters in life being just as entertaining, just as adventurous, just as painful, just as things like, why do we always, well, I'm going to talk for myself. Like, I'm trying to not publicly participate in the trendy stuff. I want that stuff to participate in like the stuff that's going to age well. And like I want to be casted in a movie when I'm 90, like whatever. Are there auditions for us there?
yeah.
Like, what, but I mean, at the same time, like, we have the ability to gain our own conception of wrestling and other things. So it's like,
Yeah.
let people have the ones they want, maybe. I don't know. I just am happy to just be in this, like, this time and timeline with you and others.
That's cool, man. No, I'm glad you had me on here.
Thanks, Shannon.
I'll
Well,
come back.
yeah, I would love that. Like I said, like everyone gave tons of love and support for you here, Shannon. You were
Awesome.
so just love you so much. And,
No,
for everyone, I made these little slides and stuff, but we're going to get Shannon off the line so he can just get to his work and everything else too.
no, I appreciate all your supporters letting me be on, and I appreciate you having me on.
No.
And just keep killing it, man. Like you're special, and you've always been amazing. So just keep being amazing, and you're in control, man. So whenever you're 100, you're gonna be in movies still. I can't wait to see the 100-year-old you
Right. I mean, either. Like,
and me, right? Like, wow,
right.
what's that
Yeah.
gonna look like?
I'll be booking a tattoo appointment.
Yeah.
Last piece of my skin. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey.
That's what people ask me. They're like, "Man, what are you gonna do whenever you're like 80?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna be the coolest 80-year-old ever with tattooed 80-year-old with saggy skin and whatever wrinkles I have, or I don't care. Like at that point, like it's just like I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna be the 80-year-old me. I don't know."
That's awesome. I can't wait. I know. So everyone, this is Shannon Moore. I mean, you guys know where to find him. I'll put all the links in our socials and everything else. Thank you so much, Shannon. And if there's anything you want to drop down for the folks, like we love you. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Yeah,
Thank
thanks for having me on.
you. Thank you. All right. So I don't really know how my guests sign off. So I don't really.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll
I don't
try it.
either.
Okay, I'll just click some buttons. I
I
love
think
you,
here it
Shannon.
is. I got it.
Oh,
Use
great. Bye. Cool beans, guys. Cool beans. Yeah. So that's that. That was that. That was that. All right. I'm so tickled right now. So that was Shannon Moore. And this is now our new coffee spot. I hope you guys enjoyed these little screens. I also too want to add here, that was Shannon. I made some slides so you guys can check them out on the social medias. You know, let me get these slides together. Here we go, guys. So Shannon Moore, we appreciate him for stopping by the Crow's Nest. You know, if you guys have any guests that you want to drop or me to drop an invitation to, let me know. We've got lots of folks in line to just kind of do what we do, you know, have some coffee. But I want to quickly show you some codes if you want to check out our friend Shannon Moore. Very talented, very wise brother here. You guys know where to find him. You heard the community he's a part of. Here's another little QV code or QR code, you know, one of these things. Yeah, I'm just so tickled pink because like this is the first day that I'm on this platform, which is StreamYards. And we're able to put more slides in the mix. So I'm really looking forward to continuing our little conversation. I want to thank everyone who came by and just gave love in the chat, guys. I recognize some of you all from all of our platforms and conversations. So welcome to your new spot. So this is what our aesthetic is. We're changing things. We're moving along here. So here's another little tag for Shannon. We appreciate him for sure. Check him out. He's had a great career. You guys, most of y'all know him. So that was Shannon. Yes. So that's great stuff. So let's see. How do we close out nowadays? With all of this excitement going on, you know, like we've just been a one-man band around here for so long, you know, so it's kind of new. It's exciting. I'm very excited. Let's see. Like I said, I make all these screens and stuff, so this has been like the highlight of my day. Bing! That's my name. And here we go. So, with that being said, my friends, I guess we will close out shortly. And you guys can find us on Fridays at 11:12 a.m. I think that's going to be our thing, you know? I think we got to keep that thing alive. And also, I think consistency will be our thing. So, you definitely can count on that. And I'll make sure I'm on time. So, I appreciate you guys stopping by and have a great rest of your Friday. All right. I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.